Oh, okay. Joaquin Phoenix, I first met him when I was 7, and his name was Leaf Phoenix, and I had a big old crush on him. Oh. And so when I learned at age 21, I think is when I did this, that I was going to be doing a movie with Leaf Phoenix, aka Joaquin Phoenix, I just about lost it. I couldn't believe it. It's like, what? Who gets to do a movie with their childhood crush? Like,
reunited. You reunited.
All right. Tell me the actor or acting experiences where you've been across from somebody, you're doing a scene from somebody where you were just like, fuck, this person's good. Like, you can name a couple of people like where you were just like, whoa, this motherfucker, where you're just kind of like, you're taken by their talent.
Well, Joaquin Phoenix is like still, I think he's one of the greatest actors of our generation, you know, and we haven't even seen what that kid's gonna do.
Timothy Chalamet, I would love to meet. I think he's a great actor. And there's always Joaquin Phoenix, who I know, but I'll fanboy over any time, any day.
And Joaquin, I love you so much, you know I do, and I just want to hit you in the face, and I just mush your yummy face, and yeah, he loves it when I get real like that with him. That makes him really comfortable.
Have you ever been have you ever been a person to be intimidated by other actors?
Yeah. But not too much. Usually it feels like it just raises the stakes for you, and it just, you know, there's less places to hide. But yeah, this summer I worked with Joaquin Phoenix, and I was very intimidated by Joaquin. But Edward and Michael, I don't know if I felt as intimidated because our relationship was different in the movie. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, but the Edward relationship is kind of closer to what we're used to with you, I think.
Yeah, more romantic.
A little bit edgier.
Oh.
But funny, you know, there was more of that bantery element to it.
Right.
And the Michael stuff was all either rage or pain, you know, it was like, so that was the raw.
Yeah. I mean, but it does break your heart also because I've loved Michael Keaton for so long, just as an actor, to you know, to see those things go through him is pretty heartbreaking to watch. But no, I don't know. It was just, I don't know. I don't know that I felt intimidated by them. I felt, you know, bolstered, I guess.
So did Joaquin end up bolstering you after you got over the...
Joaquin's amazing. He's amazing to work with. I think Joaquin is, I mean, the way he is as an actor, you know, it's just, he's so alive. It's unbelievable. So I was going into that. I was really, really intimidated. Yeah, but he was he was wonderful.
Because he is one of the mysterious figures in
yeah, and
show
I think
business.
that's the way I felt. I didn't really know much about him, and I had seen his, you know, him in The Master, and I was just like, what is this going to be like? And I have no idea what to do. Yeah, no, he was really amazing.
Nominated twice for an Academy Award, Phoenix announced last year that he'd be retiring from acting and would concentrate instead on becoming a rapper. He's apparently built a studio in his home and he's not signed up for any more movies. And one man who was just as shocked as the rest of us to hear the news of his early departure from films was director James Gray.
He didn't even call me to tell me, you know, and I found out about it. My wife called me into the kitchen. It was on the computer on some website. Look, Joaquin is quitting acting, and he looked like, you know, Rasputin or something. And it saddened me very much for selfish reasons. And then, you know, he reminded me a few weeks later, he said, you know, I have been acting for 30 years. And if you did something for 30 years, at the end of that road, you might be a little tired yourself.
What about Joaquin Phoenix, who was supposed to quit cinema? How do you make to convince him to play his character of a pimp?
What happened was Paul Thomas Anderson convinced him. You know, Paul. I had just made Two Lovers with Joaquin,
yes.
And he was acting a little bit crazy, and it was all for this documentary that he made. Mm-hmm. And Paul called me up and he said, "Hey, how was it working with Joaquin?" I mean, all that, all the nonsense. I said, "You know what? He's a great actor. I don't know if you can get him out of retirement, but he's a great actor, and if you can, that's the person you should make your film with." And he said, all right, well, I'll try to get Joaquin out of retirement. So it's actually P.T. Anderson who did it.
So that's great for you.
Yeah, great for me. Paul's very persuasive, you know, he's great.
You've worked with Joaquin over and over, in what, 4 or 5 movies?
4 movies, yeah.
4. So why is that? What is, and what do you think he brought to the role of Bruno?
Well, he brought a lot to the role. The role as originally conceived was a very kind of stereotypical brute. And he said, you know, what's more interesting to me is somebody who is a con man, who's constantly trying to seduce her and con her into things that she doesn't want to do. And in order to do that, you can't only be a brute. Sometimes I have to appear very formal and very pretentious in a way. And I like the way that I dress. And I'm very nice to her. And I give her the choice. And at other times I'm incredibly cruel. But it's all a manipulation to get what I want. And I thought, well, that's better than anything that I had written. And that goes to why I've worked with him as much as I have. Because he's a ferociously intelligent person. And he has an incredible emotional awareness. And people like that, actors like that, don't grow on trees. If you find a person like that who is willing to be nuts enough to work with you, who has that kind of emotional intelligence, you have to seize the opportunity as much as you can.
Did you have a good time working with the actors you chose?
Yeah, amazing. I mean, in a way, it was too much fun because there are times in the film where I had to cut just at the last moment because after that someone would be laughing. I mean, I find that people do great work with you if they are under incredible stress and worry about being fired every second, or if it's like a party. And I feel like if that's true, why not just have it be like a party? So the sets of my films have tended to be a lot of fun, and this was, in some cases, unfortunately, no exception. I mean, Joaquin and Jeremy certainly got along very well, and there was a lot of pranksterism on the set.
And Joaquin, for me, is the best actor in the English language in communicating, his age range, I should say, in communicating a kind of real struggle internally. And he doesn't have to say anything and still can communicate real turmoil. I mean, he doesn't have a line in Two Lovers for the first, 9 minutes of the movie or something, but you know he's, I mean, not just by narrative context, he's jumping off the bridge to try and kill himself, but also he can just sit there and not do anything, and you see all the inner workings. And it comes, frankly, because he's a very intelligent person. So I treasure this quality in him, and I think that that's why I'm sort of obsessed with working with him. And you're quite right, he's really different in all the movies. But he puts himself into the movies in such a way that, I mean, he's very close to mental illness. And I say that not as a joke. I mean, it's like you'll walk down the street with him, and for months he'll be one person, and then you'll see him again, and he'll be talking to you in a totally different way, and you're like, wait, which guy are you? And are you Joaquin? Are you the character? Or what's happening? And he's like, whoa, what's the problem? And he doesn't even get it. I mean, he's like...
Speak about Joaquin. Do you guys, I mean, as we said, this is your 4th collaboration with him. Have things changed since your first ones? Yeah, I mean, it was, what, 99 was the Yards, right?
That's right. Yeah. The first time we worked together, he had done really virtually nothing, nor had I, for that matter, which meant that I could sort of boss him around. The power dynamic has changed a lot, yeah. Which I don't really like. But he was, back then, I think he was 4 years old or whatever. And he would be fantastic, and take 1, line reading 3 would be great, and then take 7, line reading 2 would be great, and then take 9, you'd have to piece it together. He was like lightning in a bottle. You could see that he had a brilliant capacity for acting, but there wasn't a craft yet. By the time I made Two Lovers, which was the film I made before this one, he was a completely different animal. And he had a method, not the method, but he had a method about how he would work, to the point where he would usually tell me to shut up. And I would say to him, I'd say, Joaquin, we'd do another take. I'd say, Joaquin, he'd go, I know, shut up. The other favorite thing that he likes to say is 8. So if I say to him, Joaquin, on that last take, he goes, 8. Now that, I didn't know what that meant for 2 months. Then finally I asked him, so what are you talking about? 8, what does that mean? He means, It means I've been acting since I'm 8. You don't have to tell me.
Could we talk about how this is your first film you made with Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah.
I believe you actually wrote it for him in mind, or at
No,
least you
that's
had,
not true.
You had him in mind after you saw To Die For, the Gus Van Sant film.
Yeah, I didn't write it for him. I didn't know who he was when I wrote it. Who did I write it for? I wrote it for my friend Michael Reifenkugel. I don't know where he is now. Half the people I knew growing up in school are dead. The other half are in jail. And that's an absolute fact. It's a very grim fact. Somehow I got out. But Joaquin, I had seen To Die For. And he was introduced to me as a young Puerto Rican actor, which I thought was a bizarre way to introduce someone to me. But I wound up including that in the sort of backstory of the movie. But he was taking that. Hi, James. And I guess Harvey had sent the script to Liv Tyler. I didn't know this, and I love Liv, but I didn't know that she had gotten the script. And I guess he picked it up and read it. Was like, how come you get all the cool movies? So actually, it was his camp who reached out to meet with me. And I didn't know whom to cast at that time. And he showed up and he was like, hey, man, how you doing? I said, hey, Joaquin? Hey, man. You wanted to meet? Yeah, no, I wanted to meet. I don't know. It's like, oh, did you read the script? Yeah? Did you like it? Yeah, I kind of read it. I read it. I kind of did, yeah. I said, all right, well, it's a hell of a meeting. Thanks a lot. And then before I knew it, I was working with him. But I loved him. He was very different then than he is now. I mean, he was, I think, 20 years old or something when I made the film. He was so young, and so was she, Charlize. Mark was a bit older, but not much. And he was a very charismatic and extremely intelligent and sensitive person. I'm joking about him, which is terrible because he's a brilliant guy. But he was completely untrained. I mean, he had no method, and I don't mean the method. I mean, he had no structure to his work. And then he would be in scenes with Ellen Burstyn, who is the queen of the method. And you would, if I did 8 takes, for example, you could apply direction, an adjustment. You give an adjustment to Ellen Burstyn, and she would apply it through the whole take. And she'd be either great or you'd need to work on it more. But whatever the case, she would be clearly working with a process in mind. And Joaquin would do something amazing on take 1, and the rest of the take I wouldn't like so much. Then something amazing midway through the take on take 3, but the first part of the take wouldn't be. So my style had to change. I wanted to do a lot of elaborate masters, which I had done on my first movie, but I had to stop doing that here because the acting styles of the older actors was so completely different from the younger. And that includes actually Charlize and Mark, who has more craft than you might think, actually. So, but now Joaquin has gone to the dark side in a good way. He has an unbelievable amount of craft. And so now, like I did a movie with him later called Two Lovers, where I have a lot of stuff that is playing in one. And I did, I think, 33 takes of a scene between him and Gwyneth Paltrow on a rooftop. And I could have used 20 of them in the movie. At some point, I was just playing. So his style has evolved greatly. I'm anxious to work with him again. And I'm sure that I shouldn't say I'm sure that I will, but hopefully I will. Because I've been told from friends of mine who've worked with him that he's very different. So I'm excited.